What's going on, everyone? Talen here, and welcome to another Marvel Future Fight video. Alright, so in this video here, I'm going to be ranking the 16 Tier 3 characters that we can get in the Tier 3 Selector. So we should be getting that tomorrow, is it? Or, I'm not sure when this video is coming out. It should be coming out the day before, or maybe 2 days before, the day of, one of those. That's not very specific there. But anyway, I thought since we're having that Tier 3 Selector and everyone's getting it because it's just a login bonus, that I'd kind of give my opinion on what characters I think are going to be the best options to Tier 3. So I'm just going to be ranking all 16 of these characters like on a list from 1 to 16. I'm not going to be taking into account like how easy the characters are to get, or if you're given the character for free, like Sharon Rogers kind of thing. I'm just going to be ranking them in terms of their power level, at least in my opinion. Again, this is all just my opinion on where I think these characters will lie. As you can see, I don't have half of these characters at Tier 3, so I don't have much experience with any of those characters. And there may be a little bit of bias in this because some of these characters I play more than others, so then I may think that they're stronger than they really are just because I use them more. So a few little things like that, but I tried to, make sure that I got the list pretty accurate at least, and again, my opinion on how I thought these characters would stack up. So let's just go ahead and split up how I did the rankings. So I'm going to do one ranking where if you only have an obelisk to give the character, I'm going to do a ranking where if you have a CTP of Rage that you're looking to give to someone, and also if you're looking to give a CTP of Energy to someone. And again, that's only for these 16 characters. For like the Rage and Energy, I'm rating these 16 characters in order of who I think would be most valuable to give it to. But of course, as you can see down here, there's plenty of other Tier 3 characters that will take more advantage or be better off given that Rage or Energy, or even some Awakening characters that are better off giving those CTPs to than one of these 16 characters. So do keep that in mind that this is just for these 16 characters, and I'm not even considering any of the others when doing this ranking. So let's just hop into the first list. So the first list is going to be for just a regular obelisk, and all of my opinions here are going to be based on PvE content. So I'm not weighing any other content into my evaluation, only PvE content. I'm not thinking at all about PvP or support value in this particular list. So that's also something to keep in mind. I will give you my top picks for support and PvP at the end of these three lists, but let's go ahead and see what the first one is looking like. So there, as you can see, number one is going to be Sharon Rogers. Again, this is all just for a regular obelisk, so a regular damage proc obelisk. Right now I do have a CTP of Energy on my Sharon Rogers, but she's very easy to play with a regular damage proc, so you don't have to worry too much about that, and her damage is still very high with a regular damage proc. I had a regular obelisk on her for the longest time, and I was beating Null with her just fine with a regular obelisk, so she can do pretty much all the content with that. Next one is going to be Ghost Rider. This is another one that I don't have at Tier 3, but everyone loves Ghost Rider. His damage is pretty insane. You can play him with a regular obelisk. He's not the easiest to do a skill rotation with, but he is playable with regular obelisk, and he can do some pretty nice damage with that. So that's why Ghost Rider is going to be number 2. We have Iron Man with his newest uniform here. So again, this is assuming that you have the newest uniforms for all the characters as well. So Iron Man here, bumping up really high on the list now with this superior Iron Man look. He's super easy to play with the damage proc, so that's why he's making number 3 here, just because, yeah, very easy to time your damage proc, and he can do some pretty nice damage with this uniform as well. He can perform well in World Boss Legends, so yeah, he's another top pick here. And then after that, we do have Thor coming up on the list here, and Thor is just, I don't know, he's just a really fun character as well. He's actually pretty damage proc friendly, considering his skills have like a lot of residual effects in AoE, so you may think that may accidentally proc your obelisk a lot. But if you instant cancel your 5 into 4 for the proc, and then if you do instant cancel 5 into 2 for the proc, then yeah, you can time those pretty well, and you're usually not going to be off of your rotation very easily. So then after that, we have Black Widow. Black Widow actually is kind of surprising on how much damage she can put out with no all defense down. She's not the best option for an obelisk, but in terms of this list here, she is making it to slot number 5 because she's still just a very solid tier 3. She's got good survivability. She does have pretty great damage, but again, it's very hard to time her properly with a damage proc. But even if you don't want to just time her properly, you can just proc on the 5th skill and you can still get a really good amount of damage, or a solid amount of damage. All right, so after Black Widow, we're going to be moving on to Venom. And Venom, another one that I don't have at tier 3. I'm just leaving him as a support character or a striker for the healing. But Venom is also a good option. He doesn't have the highest damage out of the list of characters here, but, well, yeah, seeing as he's number 6, he has the 6th highest damage, or at least that's how I view him in terms of using a regular obelisk. So he is a strong pick, but I think he's better off just being a striker for the healing. So, yeah, I don't know. That's just my opinion. Anyway, now we're moving on. We have Black Bolt coming in at number 7. Black Bolt, another one I don't have much experience with, but people have played him successfully with a regular damage proc, so that's why I'm putting him here. And he seems like he does have pretty nice damage as well if you time all of his skills properly. Then we're moving on to Captain Marvel, which she's not super damage proc friendly. I still have a rage on her because she kind of does need a rage to get the most out of her, so that's why she's not higher up on the list. Is she just doesn't perform very well with a regular damage proc, but she is still playable with it. And then we have Captain America, Hulk, Storm, Cyclops, Winter Soldier, Ant-Man, Spider-Man, and Black Panther rounding out the list there. So that's just the order for the last ones. Don't know if I really need to go over them too much in detail. Captain America has just kind of fallen off. He's still good, but not anything spectacular. Hulk, where he is really good character, he's just more for PvP, but he can still do well in PvE content. So don't count him out. He can still dish out some damage, even though all of his skills are modified or based off of HP. And now the next list is going to be a CTP of Rage. And again, I'm not really going to be going over all the characters like I did before, like tapping on them like that. But we do have the list here. So as you can see, Ghost Rider now pops up to the top of the list with the CTP of Rage or CTP of Judgment, whichever you happen to have for Ghost Rider. Both work very well on him. He just does insane damage, so that's why he's up there. He doesn't have the best survivability, so if you want a character that can take a few hits, he may not be the option for you, but his damage output is pretty nuts. And then we move down, we have Thor. Thor does very well with Rage or Judgment as well, even though he is very playable with just a regular damage proc. His damage output does shoot up quite a bit once you put a Rage or Judgment on him. And then Sharon Rogers is going down to number 3 here, and that's just because a CTP of Rage on Sharon Rogers isn't necessary because she performs better with a CTP of Energy, so she may not be the highest pick for you. And then we have Black Widow. Black Widow, I actually still have my CTP of Rage on because I was just so impressed with her damage. She really surprised me on how much damage she can do with the CTP of Rage. So that's why she's making it up on the list here. And then Iron Man, again, with his new uniform, but he's another character that's very playable with a regular damage proc. So putting a Rage on, you can just save for another character. Of course, he's going to play better with the CTP of Rage, but you might as well save it for another character that kind of needs the CTP of Rage to really be playable or to really get their full potential, whereas Iron Man can still do very well with a damage proc or energy. All right. And then after that, we go to Venom. Captain Marvel. So Captain Marvel is still not super high on the list just because she's kind of fallen off in her damage. Her damage is still good, and CTP of Rage is going to be best in slot for her. You really do want to give her a CTP of Rage if you're going to be trying to utilize her. But Venom actually does a bit better, I think, overall, just because of survivability, burst damage, that kind of thing. So Venom is actually a pretty solid option for a CTP of Rage. And then we're moving on to Black Bolt, Cyclops, Storm, Hulk, Captain America, Winter Soldier, Ant-Man, Spider-Man, and Black Panther. All right, so the final list that we're going to do here is for the CTP of Energy. So CTP of Energy is Sharon Rogers, number 1. Sharon Rogers just does some insane damage with a CTP of Energy. Then we're moving on to Ghost Rider. So this is going to be very similar to the list for the regular obelisk. There's just going to be a few characters moved around because they can maybe skill cancel a little bit more so they could take more advantage of that chain hits. But for the most part, it's going to be around the same for the list. So we have Ghost Rider as next one, and then we have Iron Man, Thor, Venom, Black Bolt, Storm. Storm moved up a little bit just because she can have a lot of stuff going on the screen. So as long as you time the proc on one of her longer skills, or even just on the first skill, because that does kind of the most burst damage, you have all of the other kind of attacks raining down, so that builds up the chain hit combo pretty well. Then we have Black Widow, Captain Marvel, Captain America, Cyclops, Hulk, Winter Soldier, Ant-Man, Spider-Man, and rounding out again is Black Panther. So the bottom of the list doesn't really change much just because those characters are pretty much just going to be in that order. So that's just going to be my opinion on who I think is kind of most valuable from this tier 3 selector for those particular custom gears. So if you have those custom gears you're looking to put on someone, you've already maybe given all of your top tier 3s that you use CTPs, so you're just looking for your next one for whatever CTP you have, then those are going to be my picks right there. And then for support, we do have only really two main options for support, and that's just going to be Cyclops and Storm. Storm gives her support in the form of elemental damage, so anyone that has elemental attacks will get a buff from Storm. I think it was only like 20%, so I don't know if it was anything super spectacular. Whoa, where was it? It was right here. Yeah, all allies. Oh, it's 35%, so it's better than I thought. So 35% to elemental damage for your allies, so that makes her a pretty good support there. And then Cyclops, of course, for his leadership, being a nice generic leadership, and then giving energy attack as his passive. So he is going to be very nice leadership for War Boss Legend. And then, of course, if you're using an energy damage character, you get that as well. So that's why, for me personally, I might actually be picking up Cyclops with my tier 3 selector, because I do want that support and leadership for War Boss Legend. I'm definitely not going to be using him as any kind of main DPS or anything like that, but that's why I'm leaning towards Cyclops. And of course, if they're at level 60, you get the most value out of your tier 3 selector. So that's why I'm probably not going to be using a Ghost Rider, even though I've been saying Ghost Rider is really good. But I've already got him at level 70, and I think I have, yeah, I've got two of his gears already leveled up, so I might as well just finish Ghost Rider naturally instead of wasting the tier 3 selector on him, because I do need another support like Cyclops there, or another leadership. I'm actually lacking those, so he would be pretty nice to be added to my roster. And my other pick for me would actually be Black Bolt, because Black Bolt can do pretty good on his own. I will have to give him a CTP of Rage if I want to use him in War Boss Legend. He's got his own self-buffing leadership, so that's why he's going to be self-sufficient right there, so 65% in humans. Or I could even use him and maybe buff up my Medusa a little bit and try to use Medusa a little bit more to see if I get some clears with her. But those are the two that I'm looking for, or looking at right now for me in particular. The other ones, I'm not really sure that they interest me too much. Again, Ghost Rider is one that I do have my eye on, but he's already level 70. The other one might be Venom, but I use Venom too much as a striker, and you can't use him twice. So in War Boss Legends, all your strikers get locked after you use them for that clear, so I can't use him as a striker and then use him in the next team as like a main DPS or a support character kind of thing. So that's why I'm not really looking too much at him. And then for PvP, the main two options you're going to have for PvP are going to be Hulk and Black Widow. So those are the two main PvP characters out of this list here. I would say Hulk is a little bit more valuable, I think, as a PvP character than Black Widow. I do see Hulk more often, but Black Widow is still very strong in PvP, so I don't think you could go wrong with either of those two for PvP. For Hulk, he's easier to gear. You can just give him like one of those CTPs of was it refinement, one of the eggs. Like if you have an egg laying around, you can give him that. You can even give him transcendence, but an egg would be good because it has the max HP on it, and then that will really help for Hulk. And yeah, great survivability and a way to use one of those eggs if you have an abundance of them. Because I think, do I still have it on him? Oh, it is refinement. There it is. Yeah, I still have the egg on him. And of course, he does best with a CTP of Regen, but this works surprisingly well on him, and I've been very happy with how this egg has been performing on Hulk. So yeah, he could be a good option if you've been looking for a character to use one of those on. Black Widow, you can just use like a CTP of Authority, you can use Regen, you can use just a regular invincibility, or you can just use damage proc, but you are going to need her white uniform. You're going to need this uniform here if you're going to be doing PvP with her. This one is mainly just for PvE content, so keep that in mind. If you are going to be using her in PvP, you do need this uniform, not the other one. So yeah, I think that's going to be my ranking here. Hopefully you found it helpful and useful. And again, this is just my opinion. So if you think some of the characters on my list should be a lot higher up or should be mixed around, then, you know, you're entitled to that opinion. This is just, like I said, my thoughts on the characters, on where they lie. And yeah, hopefully it helped you guys out. And I will catch you in the next video.